It's about 28 degrees outside, and so for tonight we are making homemade chicken noodle soup. This is the soup, those are the noodles. So we're going to feast on chicken noodle soup, and then we're going to freeze dry it. And the nice thing about this is all gluten-free. But whether you're gluten-free or not, chicken noodle soup is a great item to freeze dry. And we also have cheddar chive biscuits, and we're going to be freeze drying the batter for these and then reconstituting them. So this is going to be a really nice winter dinner, freeze dried and gluten free. The best of both worlds. Well, I wouldn't say gluten free is always the best of somebody's world, but you can have it either way. Two ways I love my chicken noodle soup. That's on a cold wintry day like tonight, and also when you have a cold or flu. There's just something special about chicken noodle soup when you're sick. Now I recall my mom giving me chicken noodle soup, and it was very soothing and delicious. Like I said, these are gluten-free noodles, but you could make this with regular noodles. You can buy egg noodles. These are actually egg noodles. You can buy them, but there's something hearty about having homemade noodles, whether they're gluten-free or not. So they're going to put them into the pot, 2 or 3 minutes. We'll cook those, simmer it, and we're going to go ahead and serve it up. The great thing about freeze-drying soup, it's so easy to reconstitute. Just pour some hot water into it. It comes right back really nice. It's a great thing for a cold winter day. If you're going camping, it's just something that everyone should have in their food supply, would be freeze-dried chicken noodle soup. And not just chicken noodle soup, but you can have many other soups. Tomato soup, taco soup, which was one of my favorite. But soups are a wonderful thing for your freeze-dry storage. So here we go. Hot, homemade chicken noodle soup. And cheddar green onion biscuits. That's for dinner tonight. And it's going to be for dinner in many years to come. My trays are half full with the noodles because it's going to be easier to take the noodles to the freezer than have the trays all the way filled up with the soup. So they're half filled with noodles, and you put these in the freezer and freeze the noodles first, and then I can pull the trays out a little bit and then pour in the liquid broth on top of this to the rim and freeze that, and then they can go into the freeze dryer. I think that's going to be the best way of doing this without spilling my chicken noodle soup all over the house. So these are the shelves in my freezer. I built these about a year ago, and I put the design on one of my YouTube videos. So what we're going to do, we're going to take this out, slide this out just a little bit so I can pour the liquid in onto the solids that are already in. This is about the only way you can do this without spilling everything everywhere. And that's about as full as I want to get them. Because as this liquid freezes, it's going to expand just a little bit. But I might be able to get just a little bit more in there. Alright, I think that's enough. And that's about a third I put in about a third of a gallon on top of the noodle solids I already had in the tray. So I'm going to do that with all of these, and once it's all frozen, I'll go ahead and put them in my freeze dryer. The chicken noodle soup is all frozen. I just pulled these out of the freezer. I weighed the trays and they all weigh around 2,100 grams. So the trays are now ready to go into the freeze dryer. The reason I'm weighing these now is so that once they're freeze dried, I can take the difference, the before and after weight, and that'll tell me how much water it'll take to reconstitute this soup. The first stage I did is I put the noodles in first, froze that, and then I added the broth in the freezer, and that was frozen. That way these are as full as they can be, and I didn't spill anything. So on we go. Here's my chicken noodle soup right out of the freeze dryer. When we started this, each tray had about 2,100 grams, and we ended up with 838 grams left over, so that gave us a 60% loss of water. So this turned out really good. Before I package this up, though, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a sample of this. I'm going to go ahead and reconstitute this and just see how it turned out. I'm sure it turned out just fine. As I said before, soups is a wonderful thing to freeze dry because they're so easy to rehydrate. All you have to do is just put this into a bowl like so and add hot water, give it a minute, and you almost have your own cup of soup. I'm not sure if many of you remember the cup of soups, but this is going to be a good addition to my freeze-dry pantry. Some nice hot water here. Put that right inside. Just going to give this a bit of a stir. And a soak. We'll come back to it in just a moment. It's been about 1 minute and the noodles are nice and soft, so let's check this out. That is good soup. This is good as the day I did it. So I'm extremely happy with this. Like I said, I mean, this would be great like for a winter's camp out, or going snowmobiling. Oh, this would hit the spot after a day of snowmobiling. Okay, so that is a thumbs up on that. But we're going to continue on our adventure of soups. Here's another great thing about freeze drying soups. Now I went through my pantry and I checked all the expiration dates. They're actually the best use by dates of a lot of my cream of chicken and cream of mushroom soups. Now cream of chicken and cream of mushroom soups are the foundations of many dinners. They're almost a necessity to have in your pantry. So I found these which are expired. This one right here was best used by December 4th of 2019. Well, today is January 9th of 2022. So this is like 2 years old. This one right here expired a year and 2 months ago, and then these expired last month. So I have a companion video concerning canned food and their expiration date, and that's going to be released here shortly. But basically the issue about canned foods from the USDA basically sheds some additional light on the expiration and best use by dates, but that's another issue. Regarding the shelf life of canned foods, the Department of Agriculture released this bulletin explaining the shelf life of cans that may be in your pantry.
I want to focus in on this particular paragraph right here. The bulletin includes a claim that shelf-stable foods in cans are safe indefinitely, as long as the cans are in good conditions, no rust, dents, or swelling. Now this is a pretty amazing claim, and I think it should still be taken with a certain word of caution. There are 3 conditions that will extend the shelf life of your food. The first is to keep your food or your pantry in cool temperatures. The second is to keep your food in a location where the relative humidity is dry. If you live in a climate where you have high humidity, this may be hard to do. The third is to keep your food away from heat and direct sunlight. Heat can decrease the shelf life of food, and exposure to ultraviolet radiation can break down food if you keep your food in clear containers. Whether or not you believe that your food in a can in your pantry can have an indefinite shelf life is a decision you're going to have to make as an owner. Only you know the conditions of your pantry and whether your food in cans will go bad. The one benefit with people who do home canning and put their food into glass containers is you can see the condition of your food through the glass. However, home bottling shelf life only extends to 1 or 2 years, where cans have a much longer shelf life, but the drawback with cans, you cannot see what's going on inside, and you may be surprised one day when you open up a can of food and discover it has spoiled. So you're going to have to use this bulletin with an ounce of caution and judgment and prudence to see which is the best storage method that is right for you. The benefit of freeze drying is being able to take your food that might be expiring or is close to expiring and freeze dry it and increase the shelf life of your food through freeze drying and thus protecting your investment.
So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and freeze dry some of my expired canned soups. Now we know 1 year, 2 years past due is really not a big issue. I have this one right here that was purchased just last week. So I have this one that doesn't expire until April of 2023, and this one right here expired 2 years ago. So we're going to open this up, since this is our oldest, and we're going to compare it to the newest. Okay, so as you look at this, this is the one that expired 2 years ago. This is the one I bought just last week. So the texture, the color is pretty much the same. And the smell is identical. There's no difference in smell between these 2 soups that are almost 3 years apart from each other. So the nice thing about condensed soups is the manufacturer has already removed most of the moisture from the soup. So this is going to be a lot easier to freeze dry because we don't have to worry about so much water. So we're going to go ahead and fill this tray up with this past due soup. We're going to freeze dry it and stick it into our freeze dry pantry. So I was able to put 6 cans of the condensed cream of chicken soup into one Harvest Right tray. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this in the freezer and pre-freeze it. But you know, first we're going to weigh it. Another benefit of having a freeze dryer is being able to preserve the home canned product that you put up in the past. I went through my pantry and I found these 2 cans of chicken stock, and this chicken stock was bottled in July of 2020 Right now it's January 2022, so this is 18 months old, and it's time to do something about it. I really don't want to throw it out because chicken stock is really valuable to cooking. Now, the difference between chicken stock and bouillon is that chicken stock has a much more rich flavor, has more body, where chicken bouillon has a lot of sodium that you probably don't want in your diet. But I use, chicken bouillon when I have to. So we're going to go ahead and check this chicken stock, and it still smells good. Now I'm not going to pour this into the tray right here because I don't want this chicken stock to go all over the place. So I'm going to put the tray in the freezer, pull it out a little bit, I'm going to pour it in, and then let it freeze that way, and then put it into the freeze dryer. But whether you have chicken stock or canned soups that you've canned in the past, as they approach their expiration date, you can rescue them and freeze dry them instead of throwing your food out if you're not ready to eat it at the time. So we're going to go ahead and freeze dry the chicken stock, which I've done this once before in a video about freezing liquids. So I know that chicken stock is a really good candidate for freeze drying. So here's my soups. This is the condensed cream of chicken soup, and this is my chicken stock. The interesting thing about my chicken stock, it had so much water in it and it went back to almost nothing. So this was like 2 quarts of chicken stock that I can now put into a container that's going to be a fraction of the size. And this was several cans of the cream of chicken soup, and I can put this in a pouch now and it'll last for a long time. And between these two, this will clear up almost an entire shelf in my pantry. So this is just one thing you can do to for your pantry when it comes to soups, is freeze dry them. Because the nice thing about soups is they come back quickly and with very little problems. So I hope you consider freeze-dried soups. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe, and we'll see you later on.